Great. Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have Peter Wimberg with me. Peter, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Great, great. Well, it was great. We only met recently and got so excited talking about the work that you're doing, and you've been in business for quite a while. Maybe you could start and give us a little bit of how you got into the industry, when you started the company, and we can take it from there.
Sure. So we celebrating our 45th year, and so that takes us back to 1980. I actually started it before that. That's the year I got out of high school, started college, and already actually had the business going at that point. So if we
Well,
really go back, I was probably 10 years old when I started, which would make it about 53 years. But, I was just pushing a lawnmower around the neighborhood at that point. But I did start that young in the industry. I've never really had an office job. Um, I've always enjoyed being outside, and got a degree in finance in college. And after that, had the opportunity to go to graduate school, continue on with finance, and decide I really just, you know, wanted to keep the business going. I already had a few people working for me. And
yeah.
45 years later, we have 65 people working, 40 trucks,
Wow.
and been working this greater Cincinnati market the whole time, serving residential clients. So we really don't do much commercial work at all.
Yeah. And design and build and maintain. Is that right?
We do. Yep.
Do
Design,
everything.
build, everything from that initial master plan, smaller plans, up to complete maintenance, lawn care, landscape maintenance, snow removal, lighting, irrigation, the whole thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
Great, great. Well, congratulations. That's quite a great journey. Well, and one of the things that we started talking about when we were meeting is how you are at a while back you started experimenting with native plants and more, I guess, naturalistic schemes. How long ago was that?
So we actually started pushing that really about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we were kind of just dabbling in a little bit before that. I met somebody locally on a local park board, and we were maintaining a big garden at this park. And we've had it for 25 years. It's part of an adopt a plot program. And it was the big garden nobody wanted. So we took it. And when she came on the park board with me, she mentioned to me, "Hey, have you ever thought of doing something different with that bed that you have?" And I said, "Sure, I'm open to it," because we were just doing real typical annuals, and there were, boxwood hedges or whatever. And she really came in and just tore it all out, and kind of went with, she was a follower of designer Pete Odoff, and
Yep.
who's well known now.
The New York High Line. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the High Line, Glory Gardens in Chicago and all that. So she designed something like that. And then at the time, she was actually also just been the editor of Horticulture Magazine.
Okay.
And so we ended up talking, and she's came on board with us. And that was 8 years ago now. And from there, we started pushing it, and just kind of, as we met people, "Hey, have you considered this?" We started writing about it in our newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
and people started kind of, taking the bait on that. Like, sure, I want something that's chemical free, environmentally friendly, really has year round interest. We're, kind of getting people to realize, don't cut this stuff back. Leave it up all winter. The insects live in there all winter. And in the spring, you just break it off and leave it there. And what's really launched it was, we moved from a very urban location in 2019. Actually, in 2020, right as the pandemic hit, we were developing our new property, and we had land. So we moved about
Your
12
your
miles
office
away.
location.
Our office and our warehouse and everything.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
we moved from, we were, like I said, in Cincinnati, in the city limits, but like I said, very, industrial location. And
Okay.
we moved 12 miles out of Cincinnati, and we have 5 acres, and a lot of it's paved and warehouse and office, but we have about probably close to an acre is in garden. And when we moved here, it was nothing but lawn, and we tore it all up. And now it's gardens and paths.
And you did it all in one go, or did you do it in phases over?
We did it in well, it took about 3 years, but we did a lot of it the first season.
Okay.
So there's no lawn in the front anymore. That's all gone. not much lawn around the building. And it's been on garden tours. It's won an award. Our garden at the park I mentioned has now won awards. And people come, I'll be out here on the weekends and I'll see photographers here, people just walking the path just to see what's going on. I mean, we've got butterflies and hummingbirds and goldfinch and praying mantis, turtles, whatever. Um,
Wow.
and truly, my yard, my personal yard, I
Mhm.
haven't had a lawn in probably 15 years. And
Eh,
I actually did that before I even met, or even met Jennifer, who's one of our designers and brought this in.
yeah. Well,
And
so it maybe really started then.
yeah, and part of that came from I spend a lot of time, um, hiking. And we're in Cincinnati, but I spend a ton of time in Great Smoky Mountain National Park down in Tennessee, North Carolina. I'm actually a volunteer down there in the backcountry, and I've just always liked that look, that kind of wild, woods look. In the meadow down there, Cades Cove, which is a big 10-mile loop, of grasses and meadows and wildflowers.
Yeah.
And I turned my urban Cincinnati, half acre into something like that about 10 or 15 years ago. And my neighbors did question that.
They at the
They
start,
they
like,
kind of thought,
"What are you
wow, this is
doing?"
nuts what you're doing. You got rid of your lawn. One guy even told me it was illegal and he was going to turn me in and I was going to have to cut it all down. And since then, that my yard has now been on the local garden tour for, native, non-traditional landscapes twice. And
Yeah.
now people love it. It's kind of funny. I mean, I don't think most of the people didn't hate it. I think they were curious about it. And now it's really, I mean, I'll find people just out looking at our garden, walking by like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe you did this in the city. And so slowly, we have a separate, pollinator newsletter that we do now.
Okay.
Um, we give talks here at our office. We have a classroom. We do outdoor tours and an inside presentation. We actually have classes from like the University of Cincinnati come out here to look around. Garden clubs come out here to look around. Last fall, we even spoke at the Cincinnati Zoo Native Plant Symposium, which is pretty incredible because they fly in speakers from like all over the country. And we were one of the sponsors. And in talking to the people that run it, we kind of said, just casually, kind of like, hey, I think our our angle on this might be interesting. That it's one thing to get up and the speakers mentioned that, hey, here are plants that you should be considering, or, whatever. They talked more from a scientific end of it.
Yeah.
And we talked from what's it like to have a company where you're trying to sell this in a world where everybody has lawns, everybody's putting chemicals on them.
Yeah.
And that's the look, formal gardens. And I say formal that everybody wants to prune everything.
Yeah.
They have to control it. And we're kind of having to change the mindset of the public
Well,
that this is different and this is okay. You just have to get used to a different look.
and how challenging is that? I mean, y when I look around at gardens or landscapes here, it does seem very much like everybody wants the lawn and the boxwood, but is it that they don't even know what the options are and
I
why?
definitely think that. And our talk at the zoo, my portion of the talk was I really did kind of blame the landscape industry for not being creative enough. Mentioning boxwood here in Southwest Ohio, uh, our county has a quarantine on moving boxwood right now. That the box moth is killing off boxwood.
Is
We have certain areas where people are losing every boxwood in their yard. This moth, and it's here to stay. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And when you plant these monocultures, and part of my talk at the Cincinnati Zoo, I opened it with that where I live, and I whatever I walk every day with our dogs or whatever. And one night, just for fun, I'm out walking them, and I thought, well, I'm going to see how many boxwood I count in front yards in a mile and a half on this walk. Over 500. Okay.
yeah,
So
mile and a half is
I
not
said,
very far.
yeah, yeah, we're just boring. It's just boring. If that's all you can think of, it'd be like selling couches and everybody just brought, or, all they did was sell brown couches, brown leather couches. That's all we have. That's all everybody wants. That's all you should use. And it's just dull. It's just boring. If you show somebody Fine Gardening magazine and they highlight amazing gardens. They've had some in Cincinnati there. There are some in Michigan that I'm aware of, Tennessee, whatever. They're amazing gardens. There's a lot going on. There's texture, there's color, there's year-round interest. And people look at those and they'd be like, sure, that's beautiful. But if you gave it to them, I'm afraid they'd take a weed eater to it. That they would. They'd look at it like, well, it's cool in the pictures, but I'm looking at it's wild, it's out of control, so I cut it all to the ground or something. People just, they don't get it. And part of the talks we do, we will show them a colonial house, a Tudor house, a contemporary house, a Cape Cod,
Yeah.
whatever.
All the
That,
different
yeah,
styles.
here's the traditional landscape: boxwood, arborvitae, a tree on the corner, and whatever, a few daylilies or something. But here's what you could do. It doesn't have to look like a wild meadow, but you can certainly use pollinators. You can use natives. You can use cultivars of the natives. Mix it up, though. There's no reason to have, and first of all, boxwood are not cheap. It's an
No,
expensive plant. Yeah. And for what you can buy in, plugs of these pollinators or just going with shrubs that flower, you should never prune. Get rid of the pruners. If you do prune them, you do a rejuvenant pruning back to the ground, and that's it. And we're trying to enlighten people on what this can look like. So one thing we did 2 years ago was we picked two main streets in the area that I live in.
okay.
And I've lived there my whole life. I mean, the house we're in for the last 30 years, my wife and I have been married 39 years. We live within a mile of where we grew up, which is a very Cincinnati thing.
Okay.
I married somebody from Cincinnati and nobody moves. But we picked these two very popular streets, beautiful homes, okay? 100-year-old homes, a mix of homes, big Tudors, whatever. It's just very kind of eclectic, neighborhood in that
Yeah.
regard. And we sent letters, 300 letters. We sent out to these homeowners and just said, we're looking for people who would allow us to come in and basically turn your front yard into a pollinator garden. Okay. We wanted these to be visible. Okay. We just don't want to do them back. We want people to see. So we sent out 300, and I really thought if we had 5 people that called us and did one, it'd be amazing. We had 25 calls, and we've done probably 15 or 20 of those.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think at least 3 of them may be on the local garden tour next year. And these people fully embraced it. They were just like, their kids are into it. If they have little kids, are helping. And a lot of them were just like, yeah, I want to get rid of some of my lawn. And I'm not advocating removing all lawns. Lawns certainly have purposes,
Yeah.
play or
Right.
whatever. I'm not that way at all.
I like to sit in the grass,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, grass is good. It's all, yeah, I don't want to come across like that at all. But yeah,
but
these
front yards
homeowners,
people don't use,
well, yeah, a
really.
lot of it they don't. And yeah, it is. I mean, why not have that kind of, just go with that different look. And honestly, these gardens are beautiful. It's kind of that, in a way, it's kind of like if you saw pictures of, the English gardens where the people they really get into gardening. And these front yards, it's just a mix of flowering shrubs, some ornamental trees, native wildflowers. But once again, you drive by and there are hummingbirds. I mean, there are butterflies. You got the monarchs. Yeah, it's just so much more interesting. And actually, people ask, is the maintenance more? And consider I have no lawn, so I don't spend any time mowing the lawn every week. I do get out and I remove plants that I don't want. And I say that because some of the quote weeds that have come in are just native plants. And if it's a cool native plant, I
You
leave
might
it.
wanna keep it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I figure it wants to be here. I'll give it a shot and see what it does. And it's just a different kind of maintenance. I'm not firing up a lawnmower at my yard every week. And I say that knowing our crews here, we mow 500 properties a week in the greater Cincinnati. So that part of our business is big,
Yeah.
but it's just a different type of maintenance. I don't do any leaf cleanup in my yard. And my yard has large, massive oak trees. The neighbors have oaks, whatever, maples. I really let the leaves fall into the garden areas, just like they would in the woods, and I leave them.
It's the richest soil, if you
Yeah,
can leave
yeah.
them where they fall. Yeah, and I think that, sometimes things get mixed up. Obviously, a lot of us are on social media, and I've seen lawn care people go, you can't leave the leaves, it'll kill the grass. But I think it's you know, there it has to be built to leave the leaves. So it has
Exactly.
to be planting, not grass where the leaves fall.
Right, right. In that situation, it depends how many leaves are you trying to compost back into the lawn.
Yeah,
And on that
not work.
topic, lawn is really the enemy of trees. And I'll just say that that may make people, but it really, trees want to grow in
Yeah,
the forest
yeah.
and they like the competition makes them grow higher, the whole idea that the kind of the stronger survive. But yeah, it's a different form of management. We have to kind of get out of our head that maybe the lawn has to be perfect. And once again, I'm not going after golf courses. I actually think golf courses are fascinating. There's some amazing golf courses out there that are adapting the course to the native environment. I
Mhm.
know some up in northern Michigan that when you drive by them, you're really not sure it's a golf course. It
Wow.
looks so adapted to the environment and they've kept the native plants. The native grasses actually flow up to the fairways. And anyway, it
We've featured some in Florida that have, with sand dunes and yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So it can be done. I just think it's a different type of maintenance.
Mhm.
So getting back to that, do I spend more time certain times of the year I do? When things are shooting up in the spring and I'm kind of deciding in my garden, our gardens here at our office take a lot of time. I mean, if there's maybe an acre of garden here,
Well, an acre is a huge amount.
it's a big amount. Yeah. So we have one person, she comes in 3 to 4 half days a week just to work on the gardens. That's all she does for us.
Okay,
And
but that's
so it's
still
some time.
not
But these our gardens here too at the office are maybe a little more complex in that regard. So if well, the one thing is in these gardens, you want to fill every space. You don't want to have and we only use pine straw mulch, no hardwood.
okay.
And you want plants to expand. You want them to run around. You want them to multiply. And you can control all that, but you want to fill every space. The goal is someday that you're really not putting down much mulch at all. And the garden's kind of managing itself in a way that, it's filled in the spaces and then you're kind of moving or adding things. Maybe you don't like certain things that did take off and other things you'd like to see more of. So that's kind of the fun part of it that you're kind of playing with nature like that. Uh, I mean, my yard or even our gardens here, I just kind of wait to see what's going to come up. And I've gone from if I really had to mulch my yard, that space would probably take 200 bales of pine straw or something in my
Okay.
personal yard. And honestly, at this point, we put down like 15 or 20, maybe 25, just dressing in areas over the winter because the rest of it is just really packed in with plants. Well, and that's what happens in nature. Nature fills those voids.
And the other thing is that plants, a lot of most plants have a lifespan. And so again, by letting things self-seed and do what they do in nature, I think that, shrubs start to seed and they do that to prolong their species, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've certainly put in plants here at our office, at my house, and other people's properties where you put in some and they might be gone in 5 years. And it's cool because we've had property owners who are like, whatever. They realize going in that you might have put in 50 of these here, 20 of these, 30 of these here and there, and you end up with 200 of these and 5 of these.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's okay. It's
they
to,
evolve.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
they
mean,
evolve where their needs suit the environment.
that's right. The environment works for them in a certain area. I've always wondered that. I mean, last Thursday I was down in Smoky Mountain National Park. I did like a 15-mile hike to do trail maintenance and backcountry campsite maintenance. And as you're hiking, you see a massive whatever, some native plant in the woods. You think, why is it growing there and not 10 feet from there?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah, why do rhododendron down there grow hanging off a cliff on a rock, and we can't get them to live in Cincinnati for anything? I mean, truly, it's kind of that mystery of why plants do well one place and not another. I can tell you this
It's
too.
because you can't
The
see it. It's the soil and the conditions in
Well,
the
yeah,
soil.
it is. I mean, The local park garden that we do actually has 4 quadrants to it. It has a big urn in the middle. It was a very formal thing years ago, and we've made it this, plant garden and cultivars in there too. But the 4 quadrants were all planted the same, like a decade ago. They're all kind of different now. I mean,
Yeah.
some plants, it's amazing, just 10 feet or 15 feet away on the other side of this circle, that the sun is different, the environment's a little bit different. And what goes in that quadrant is thrived is not necessarily what's happening 15, 20 feet away on the other side. So, and that's where you have to just, we tell people you got to kind of let go.
Yeah.
You're a
Not
control
try to
freak. And
control it.
I'll be honest, in most of my life, I'm pretty much a control freak.
I am
You know,
too.
yeah, yeah, my schedule is tight. I I keep lists. I know where things are. I want to be prepared. But it's amazing. I go out in the garden and I'm fine with it being kind of, I'm not going to say out of control because I think nature has control of it. And
Mhm.
I'm willing to look at it and say, okay, that's what it's going to do. And yeah, to be able to like kind of live with that look and enjoy it year round. I mean, even winter here, we get some good snows here. And we did a newscast. We do like 4 or 5 news features here every year at our office on the garden. And I had this reporter come out with the film crew last January. And it had snowed like heavy that week, and it was a beautiful, clear day. And she was just freezing. The guys with the cameras were all. And when I was done, because she just kind of said, "So we're here in the winter. Tell me what's going on in this garden." And I started talking about how we leave everything up. I said, "Look at these fascinating seed heads." And we had all kind of mountain mint, and we had echinacea out there. We had Rudbeckia maxima, which is like an 8-foot tall coneflower, or yeah,
I love those. I have some in
yeah,
my
yeah,
yard and they're self-seeding and I'm like, "Yay!"
yeah, yeah. So that, and we even got them to film up close into the stems where the little holes were where the insects were living. And I said, if you cut all that down and haul it away, you just took all the insects to the compost pile or to a city dump or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, when we were done, after we finished filming, she goes, actually, that was fascinating. She goes, I had no idea what you were going to talk about, dragging me out here for a garden segment
In the
in January.
freezing cold.
Yeah, yeah.
Who
She said
gardens
that
in
was,
January?
yeah, yeah. She said that was just so interesting that, yeah, that there's so much going on in the garden in the winter in terms of appearance and texture and just,
And
it's what you
food.
would see in a native meadow. Whereas everybody else, what do we do in the fall? We remove all the leaves, we cut everything back. It's just like sterile.
Yeah.
It's just like it has to be too clean. It's like we always say people look at their lawn like it's carpet and the plants are like furniture and
But
they
they're
want it
living.
controlled like that, where it has to be really organized and well placed and always the same.
I mean, you spoke about the challenge with convincing clients. Is there, if you're in the landscape industry, having a business that does maintenance, I could see some reluctance to like, how much, revenue do we get from doing this type of care that everybody wants us to do? And then, it's maybe an uncomfortable feeling to go, well, I'm proposing a design that takes less care or,
It's
is that a worry, do you think, in our industry or?
I well, it may be less care at times. I think it takes more skilled care.
Okay.
And nothing against lawn mowing,
Yeah.
you know,
But you have
but
to know more about each and
you
every
gotta know
plant.
your plant. Have to know, first of all, what's coming up. Is it good or bad? I mean, it could be an inch tall. People that know their plants are like, yeah, keep that. It's that plant over there reseeding over here. Or it could be, yeah, that's a plant coming up. I know we don't want that here. It's really invasive, so let's get rid of it. It could be, hey, if we cut this one back, we can get more blooms out of it, or we'll force it to like kind of, adapt to this area a little bit more this year. So let's prune them back now. It's a different maintenance. It does. So we have found that with our team here that we have So our maintenance division, whatever, they take care of 200 properties on any given week where it's kind of well, I say it's almost like an outdoor maid service. We stop by and just take care of things. And there's a handful of our team there that really does know the pollinators and the natives. And,
So
we're
they
confident
take the
in
lead
them
on.
out that nothing bad's going to happen. So, and let's face it, stuff does happen. We had a crew, where one of those people couldn't be here one day, and it was on the list, within the tablet everybody carries here on a site to go to, and it was a pollinator garden. And before anybody could stop him, one of the team members was cutting the flowers, the dead flower heads off
Okay.
because, in his mind, that looked bad. That 99% of our clients would say, "Oh yeah, cut that, it's dead."
Well,
We
yeah,
leave that, and it was a good teaching point, and so, yeah, well, once again, it's one of those things we actually tell them, when in doubt, don't do anything, because we can always go back.
yeah,
But I think, it's a good question. I think it's a different kind of maintenance. I've always said if we were managing a bunch of meadows as opposed to a bunch of lawns, it would just be different work.
yeah.
It would be people going through those meadows and truly keeping out the plants that we don't, making sure the plants we do want, are we going to add things now that we have a meadow? Do we want to start to maybe transition parts of the meadow, with some understory trees or starting to put some shade trees in? Do we want to carve paths through it? I just think it's different.
Different.
I mean, I know from experience managing a local park where I've been removing invasives. I've cleared
Okay.
invasive honeysuckle and burning bush and privet and bittersweet from 45 or 50 acres that are populated by massive beech trees, buckeye, massive oak trees, maple. To manage that then, to clear took me about 4 years and about 12 or 1400 hours. To manage it properly would probably, it would take more than I'm giving it. Let's say that. I mean, if that's all I had to do as opposed to clearing more areas, I could I could probably put the time I spent clearing it, probably a quarter of that time going back to manage it every year. Because all I did was get out the big bad stuff at this point. Now there's
Finer details to
yeah, now there's Japanese chaff and Japanese stilt grass coming in. So it is the park board here in Cincinnati that the team members I work with said, it's great you're removing that. It's also inviting other invasives to come in though. So and that we know that, and it
yeah,
was kinda like, yeah, but that step in that process is get rid of the woody stuff first
yeah.
and, let the pawpaws come back, the spice bush are coming back, the good I
Okay.
mean, the trillium are coming back like crazy. And now you have to manage the herbaceous, non-invited plants.
Yeah,
It's a different type of
the different
management.
type of well, and it's interesting that yeah, thanks for sharing the example about the crew that normally, remove flower heads,
Right.
seed heads, and then, it I mean, that shows the complexities. It's at an 80 degrees different from that takes a lot
Oh,
of effort as a company. As a company owner, you have to want to have different crews. I mean, that's making your
it's
management of the company harder.
yeah, yeah, and it's let's face it, we're still providing a service, most of our service to gardens that are nowhere near this. I mean, they're typical landscape gardens with boxwood and arborvitae and all that stuff that needs to be pruned and weeded, hardwood mulch everywhere, where every weed that pops up is super noticeable,
Okay.
and that's fine. That is kind of what most of the
A
industry
lot of
is.
people.
That's what we're doing. Yeah, that's what's out there.
Yeah.
It is kind of. Uh, and I don't want to hope this analogy doesn't sound bad, but it's kind of the difference if you're working at a fast food place and you're just making all the same thing compared to going someplace and ordering a more specialized meal, let's say, and part of what we do is just that. Let's get out and mow these lawns. Let's get out and pull these weeds. The other part is these clients now that have these more, complex gardens, let's say with the natives and the cultivars and all the wildflowers and stuff. It just takes more, I'll be honest, it takes more skill, more knowledge about plants to maintain that.
Well, and you said, so roughly about 5 years ago, you started embracing this more. Have you found each year that you get more and more? I mean, the example you gave, how long ago did you go in your around your neighbors, the
That was just 2
300?
years ago. It was either 2023 or 2020. It might have just been last year even.
'Cause, I mean, that's a huge percent.
Well,
It was almost
we get
10%.
we will get upwards of 2,000 calls this year for new work. Okay. Considering we just added, non-conventional slash pollinator slash native garden to our list of offerings, everything from snow
Okay,
removal, leaf cleanup, lighting, irrigation, lawn mowing, whatever. We get people checking that off every day.
okay.
So we have two people who are pretty much almost full time in the people they're meeting who are asking for these types of gardens now. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
amazing.
yeah, without getting real specific, I'm going to say it went from almost zero or very few sales a couple of years ago to those types of gardens. And our sales will probably be, in adding them in, that they're usually part of another in other words, we're doing a pollinator garden. We're also doing walkways and walls and stuff. But
Right.
those types of projects, I'm going to guess we're going to be over $1 million now for us.
Wow.
Which, we're way, I'll just say we're between over 5, but less than 10 million a year. But it
A
is
huge part of your
well, let
business.
me say this. All of our salespeople now are very familiar with what we're doing. And if they meet someone who mentions it, they know to bring it back to one of the other people with the knowledge, and our other designers they're starting to get into it too. I mean, they're starting to see that while people are asking for this, let's have the knowledge or, you can just go to somebody else on the team here and say, I met with these people. I think they want to do a meadow in the backyard. Come help
Yeah.
me out on this. Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's showing previous work and what it looks like after a few years, and I think that's
Absolutely.
what's so ideal about your office location being kind of a showpiece for that, because then they can come and experience it before they choose it. I mean, that's huge
Oh, absolutely.
education.
Yeah. 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 It's funny too. So in the last month, I was in Chicago for a wedding. I was just up in Wisconsin. I do some bike racing. So I was up there last week. And at both of those events, so at the wedding, I was talking to someone and they asked, what do you do? And I was telling them. And she looked at me and she goes, wow, I have a gardening club up here in Lake Forest, north of downtown Chicago. And we started, and I think if I really pushed it, we'd be giving a garden talk up there because
Wow.
she was just fast. I mean, I had my phone out, we're sitting there talking about gardens. And in Wisconsin, the guy who ran this bike race, he asked me, hey, are you still working? And I said, yeah, we're talking about it. And I told him what we're doing. And he goes, wow. He goes, my wife and I were just talking about this. I have 3 acres and we don't know how to meadow it. You need the matrix plant. You need kind of that base plant
Yeah.
that's going to kind of fill in and then you start to work from there. Almost everybody I bring it up to, if you're just talking about that you're in the industry, and I'll say, hey, yeah, we're really pushing kind of this native and pollinator thing and kind of moving away from traditional landscapes, landscapes that are heavy into chemicals. People they're interested. And I think in the next decade, it's going to become more and more, you know, uh, I think it's going to be common in the residential market. I think I could see municipalities almost requiring it. And I still wonder about this, all the highways in the Midwest or South, whatever. Why is it we drive by and they're mowing them?
Same thing here, and I guess especially having been in Europe for a while, where they are transitioning all the verges, all the, to meadows, and, it would cut down on so much maintenance and emissions
Yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, yeah. We were given a talk here to some gardening group, I don't know, last year. And we were talking about that. And I said, there's a close to a highway system here. And there's this area that just had Queen Anne's lace all through it and native wildflowers. And we all said, oh, yeah, wasn't that beautiful? And I'm not kidding. 2 days later, they came and just cut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, why do you do that? Just if nothing else, cut it in the winter. Cut it once. Is now they're like they got these big, 20-foot lawnmowers, and
Yeah.
they're just going up and down the median and just maintaining it, and just let it go. I mean, it's surprising the native grasses and the things that pop in there are just like way more interesting than turf.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it brings up a question that in my mind, sometimes as an industry, we're not embracing change as much as homeowners are, like,
I agree. Yeah.
and are we in our own way because it's too difficult to think about doing something different and to
Well, my thought on that is I think landscaping, it's an easy industry to get into. If I want to become a plumber or electrician, at least in Ohio, I have to be licensed. Whereas landscaping, it is, an easy buy a truck and you're kind of in business. And I don't know what it's like in your part of the country, but I know this in Ohio. If you look at University of Cincinnati, Ohio State, any of the horticulture landscape design programs, there's not many people in them. We had an intern, great young lady, went to high school here locally, and she's actually at Purdue in landscape architecture. And I'm not going to, with certainty, I can't say a number, but I think the whole program probably has 50, 60 people in it. It's just not, and I don't know why that is. The
Mm,
landscape design, landscape horticulture, I think the future for it's huge. That as we continue to develop housing and whatever commercial sites that I know here in Cincinnati, if you look at the canopy, the green canopy, the urban versus even where I am 6 miles out of downtown Cincinnati, that the difference from where I am into and granted the urban core, you don't have as much land to do it, but there is land to do it, and people need to think of that. And if you're putting a new building in, are you just going traditional, or are you thinking, how do we conserve the water here? And we don't have a water issue in Cincinnati. We got tons of water usually. We have some droughts, but in terms of rivers and whatever. But, what are we doing to encourage, native wildlife to be able to actually live in our
mhm.
neighborhoods?
Yeah.
I mean, how cool would it be if a typical residential neighborhood had lawn areas for play, but also it was just like you look down the street, it was kind of a meadow, and, butterflies and hummingbirds, whatever, just found that as native habit that existing in this neighborhood was fine.
Yeah. Coexisting with nature.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it can be done. And once again, I don't want to bash the chemical companies out there, but, I just don't even stock anything at my house. I don't have to. And then the thing is, there's no imbalance really of insects or disease at all in my garden or our garden here. There just isn't. I mean, there isn't
Yes.
like an invasion of Japanese beetles. There isn't like powdery mildew problem, or, I mean, boxwood, we're constantly treating, even before the box moth has come into play, leaf miners and whatever. It was like you're always doing something for them. It seemed like you're drenching them. It's almost like having a garden full of hybrid tea roses. They're great. I mean, nothing against the rosarians out there who love their roses, but
Yeah, but it's a lot of
it
work.
just takes a whole different. Yeah, I remember as when I got into this as a kid, even a teenager, taking care of people's roses. I'm out there with those dusting things and all
Yeah.
that, and yeah, I mean, no protection on either. I'm just thinking, what was I exposed to at that time? You know, Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't you know, I think you just have to once again, I found the interest in the beauty in that kind of native looking garden. And I know a couple people in this world still that just love their roses and they will never get rid of it. And that's cool. I get it. Do what you like. But I
And
think
that's why you do both types of or I
sure,
think both types.
sure.
There's multiple types, but you offer the pollinator gardens as part of your wider offerings to
Right.
it's not like you're yeah,
Well,
excluding.
yeah, we have a little joke in the office among the salespeople that the client's always right until we can convince them otherwise. You know? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, we'll do that for you, but yeah, why are we gonna put that?
Would
I
you?
mean, people will insist on things where you're just like, and you can tell them, "I think it's a bad idea to put that tree in that location. I want that tree there." And you're just like, "Well, okay, we'll do it."
Okay.
And because I can't convince you otherwise. Maybe someday you'll realize when that tree gets too big for that spot that we shouldn't have done that. But yeah, there's a certification out there. It's called like a mini national park or something that you can get for your yard. And then there's these like little like dense forests that you can plant where you literally put like a tree or more every square meter. The idea is the trees all force each other to grow quickly
Hmm.
and they help with, the carbon capture and all that kind of stuff. And whether you're into either of those or not, I just think that our landscapes, whether commercial, residential, or urban plots that people are neglecting, could be interesting. I just think they could look interesting. I think it could be a benefit to the community that you would have these plots, plants that attract wildlife or just have other interest to them rather than just kind of either urban plots that are just full of junk or residential lots that are just mowing. And commercial lots, I look at the potential for a meadow that we're just mowing these massive office parks where you could have meadows with paths for your team members. You could have sitting areas. You could do transitions into forested areas. It just could be so cool. Yeah. I hope I live long enough to see all this.
Yes, I think you will. And I think that it is growing in momentum. And I applaud you for, pushing it on for your company, because I think that, you could have just moved to this other site for your office and not done this as an example, but you've actually created a bit of a naturalistic park.
Absolutely. No, no, it's fun. It truly is. It's fun pulling in here every day and, year round just to see what's going on. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing all the photos. You've sent some photos over. We're going to include that as part of the article that this podcast spurs on, and so everyone listening can learn more and see what beauty you've created and how different it can look. So, I
Thank you very much.
appreciate you spending time to explain how you got there, and I look forward to learning more. Are you okay with, business owners that are curious about this contacting you for more information?
Absolutely. 100%. We love talking about it. And yeah, whatever, phone calls, Zoom calls, actually coming to visit, it's all good too. And I just want to say I appreciate what you're doing too. I think the magazine is fascinating. I think we need somebody to just kind of like show what else could be done out there. I really do. I just think yeah, I mean, the things that go on in architecture anyway, that's the cool thing about Chicago. I'm not really an urban guy, but the architecture there is amazing. We
Yeah,
should be doing the same in landscape, where there's just this kind of cutting edge stuff that's going on that we're bringing in.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I think there's so much potential in our industry. I think that's what's so exciting. And just what you said about, being surprised at how many of your neighbors were like, hey, yeah, I want to try that. I want to do this. That's really exciting. We're on the cusp of, you know, a lot of change for the better of everyone.
oh, I think so. I think yeah, it's going to take time, but it'll come around. It'll come around.
Peter, this has been great.
Yeah,
I
have
thank
fun.
you so much for joining us on this. And yeah, like I said, we're going to show off some of your work, and yeah, let's keep going.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, Peter. See
All
you
right,
next
thank you so much.
time. Okay.
Yep, thank you.